The small coastal town of San Agustin trembled as massive American warships docked by the shore. People gathered near the pier, watching in silence as heavily armed American soldiers marched across the beach with confidence so heavy it felt like it pushed the wind aside. Among them was General Hudson, a tall, proud man who believed no army in the world could stand against the United States. The Americans announced they were here to assist the Philippine region, but their tone felt more like they came to take control. The Filipino soldiers, led by Captain Ramon Salazar, observed from a distance. Their weapons were old, their uniforms faded, but their hearts were steady. San Agustin wasn't just land to them, it was memory, bloodline, and pride. Captain Ramon stood silently, knowing that sooner or later tension would collide with destiny. The Americans were powerful, yes, but Filipinos were unbreakable. As days passed, American soldiers moved around the town with arrogance that irritated the locals. They mocked the small wooden Filipino outpost, laughed at the market's simplicity, and even challenged local men to arm wrestling contests they always expected to win. One soldier shouted, "You people are brave, but you'll never beat us in a fight." Their voices rang through San Agustin like thunder. Captain Ramon kept his men calm. He told them, "Strength isn't in the size of your weapon, but in the size of your reason." The locals admired his discipline and composure, realizing how much they depended on his leadership. Something was boiling beneath the surface, but Ramon made sure the people stayed united and patient. Trouble began when American soldiers attempted to take control of the Filipino training grounds. The Filipino fighters stood firmly, refusing to step aside. Sergeant Decker, a hot-headed American, pushed one Filipino soldier and shouted, "Move! This ground belongs to us now!" A crowd gathered as tension thickened like storm clouds. Captain Ramon stepped in between the two sides, but instead of calming down, General Hudson challenged him. "If your men think they are strong, then prove it," he barked. And with that, the heated battle everyone feared was set in motion. The Americans wanted dominance. The Filipinos wanted respect. To avoid bloodshed across the town, both sides agreed to a formal battle in an open field 2 nights later. The rules were simple: no civilians, no unfair reinforcements, and no backing out. Americans smirked as they shook hands with Ramon's team, believing victory was guaranteed. That night, Ramon gathered his top fighters: Joel, a former farmer with unmatched strength; Lando, a small but lightning-fast scout; and Mateo, a sharpshooter known for his calmness under pressure. Together, they trained quietly, preparing for the fight of their lives. They knew they were outnumbered and out-equipped, but not out-willed. Whispers spread throughout the town. Some villagers doubted the Filipino soldiers' chances. "How can they win? Americans have everything," an old fisherman said. But others believed otherwise. "Filipinos may bend, but we do not break," replied a mother carrying vegetables to her stall. Meanwhile, Ramon wrestled with his own doubts, but never showed them. His men looked at him not just as a captain, but as the shield of San Agustin. That night he sat by the shore, watching the waves crash. "Lord," he whispered, "give us courage, give us strength to fight with honor." On the American side, soldiers trained loudly, showing off their advanced combat tactics. "This will be quick," Decker bragged, punching targets with brutal force. General Hudson observed them with pride, believing this upcoming battle would serve as a reminder that the United States was untouchable. But beneath all the confidence, a few American soldiers wondered if they underestimated the Filipinos. They had seen how determined the locals were, how their eyes burned with fire instead of fear. Yet pride kept them from speaking out. As the night before the battle grew quiet, the Filipino camp was filled with prayers. Mothers brought food, fathers tied bandanas around the soldiers' heads. Children whispered blessings. The sense of community, unity, and love made the Filipino fighters stronger. Ramon walked from tent to tent, reminding his men, "Tomorrow isn't about proving who's the strongest, it's about protecting our home. Fight with heart." His voice echoed softly in the cool night air. Every Filipino soldier understood this wasn't an ordinary battle. Morning arrived with a heavy silence. The open field looked endless as fog covered the ground. Americans marched in confidently, forming large, intimidating lines with polished rifles and modern tactical gear. They looked like giants stepping into a land of small warriors. But when the Filipino fighters stepped out, every villager watching from afar felt their chests swell with pride. Though their weapons were simple and their armor light, the determination in their eyes was enough to shake even the strongest enemy. The battle erupted with the loud crack of a signal. Americans charged fast, but Filipinos moved faster. Lando's agility shocked the foreign soldiers. He dodged punches and swept legs with precise timing. Joel blocked heavy strikes from 3 American forces, pushing them back like they were nothing but air. General Hudson, watching from a distance, frowned. This wasn't the easy defeat he expected. "Impossible," he muttered. The Americans realized these Filipinos fought not for pride, but for purpose. More clashes thundered across the field. Mateo used his sharp instinct to predict enemy movement, disarming 2 American soldiers in seconds. The crowd gasped as Ramon countered Decker's strong punch with a perfectly timed elbow strike that sent the American sergeant crashing to the ground. Filipino fighters grew more confident with every exchange. Their teamwork, unity, and discipline slowly overpowered America's raw strength. The tide of battle was shifting, and the world power was beginning to stumble.
Angered and embarrassed, General Hudson ordered his toughest men to join the fight. The ground shook as massive American fighters entered, charging toward the Filipinos with reckless force. But even in desperation, they couldn't break the Filipino spirit. Joel took on 2 giants at once, refusing to fall. Sweat poured from his face, but his feet stayed rooted like a tree. "For our land," he shouted, striking with fierce determination. The Americans began to feel fear, something they rarely tasted. The turning point happened when Lando, small but brave, climbed onto a large American soldier's back and locked him down with quick, clever moves. The crowd erupted in disbelief. "Kaya natin to!" the villager screamed. Captain Ramon then challenged General Hudson directly. Their clash was intense, power versus purpose, arrogance versus humility. Hudson swung hard, but Ramon's footwork was calm and sharp. With one clean strike, Ramon dropped the American general to his knees. Silence swallowed the field. The American forces paused, unable to believe what they were witnessing. Their most skilled fighters had fallen. Their confident general was defeated. The realization struck them. They underestimated a nation built on resilience. General Hudson bowed his head in shame. "Your strength, it comes from something deeper," he said quietly. Ramon offered his hand, not as a victor, but as a fellow soldier. Respect is earned, not demanded. The Americans laid down their weapons and extended peace to the Filipino fighters. Instead of tension, the field was now filled with gratitude and acknowledgement. Hudson apologized to the townspeople, admitting that they misjudged Filipino strength. Villagers welcomed them with food, water, and forgiveness. The Americans, humbled and grateful, helped repair the damages they caused and worked side by side with the community. True friendship began where arrogance ended. News spread quickly across nations. the world learned that power isn't defined by size, wealth, or weaponry, but by unity, heart, and courage. The battle became a legendary story told for generations as a reminder of Filipino bravery. Captain Ramon and his men returned to their quiet lives, but the legacy remained. San Agustin had proven that even the proudest giant can fall when facing a united people. And that day, the world power bowed to the Filipino spirit.